Hi everyone, this is Richard Troncalli from Florida Polytechnic University, and today is our final STEM talks of the academic semester on drones, changing your perspective. And so we have an exciting group of panelists here to discuss drones. So really in terms of drones, you're looking at your unmanned aircrafts, and our experts are going to get into more of an explanation of what those are. But we have Dr. Bushey. He is the Assistant Professor of Computer Science and Information Technology from Florida Poly. We have Ryan English. He is the president and co-founder of FlyMotion Unmanned Systems based out of Tampa. And then Ethan Puerto, the electrical engineering student from Florida Polytechnic University. So thank you all for joining us today. What we're going to do is have start up with Dr. Bushey and just have a quick introduction.
Great. So I'm Dr. Bushey. I'm assistant professor at Florida Polytechnic University. My main is computer science, but I'm really into autonomous systems. So I group drones and self-driving cars and anything autonomous together, and I'm studying it. And we're looking at the uses of drone technology in addition to the uses of unmanned self-driving vehicles. My background is I'm a retired colonel from the U.S. Air Force. I flew fixed wing. I have several hours in different types of airplanes. And I ended up my career in unmanned aerial drones for the U.S. military, both in the operation of them and the design of them. And I'm excited to be at Florida Polytechnic because we've got a lot going on here in drone technology.
Great, thank you for joining us. And then Ryan English from Tampa from FlyMotion Unmanned Systems. Thank you again for joining as well.
Thank you. Yeah, no, Ryan, excited, glad to be here. Appreciate the invitation. And, basically we're a private company, so based in Tampa, and we're involved in unmanned system technology, predominantly on the aerial side, but also now getting into some ground systems and looking at subsurface as well.
Fantastic. And then Ethan, so we have some pretty good news from you, but if you can just give a couple of seconds and share what you're doing at Florida Poly.
Yeah, I'm a student here at Florida Polytechnic University. I'm an inaugural, so I'm a junior. I was here since day one, since the school opened. I'm studying electrical engineering. I don't know if I said that already, but I'm lucky enough to have gotten involved with Dr. Bushey to do some drone research, attaching cameras to them, sending data, processing data. And I'm lucky enough to have also landed an internship over the summer. So I'll be spending my summer flying things, processing, having fun.
Congratulations. And how did you get involved in drones? Besides just connecting with Dr. Bushey, but what really inspired you to start it?
They're just really cool, so I bought one and started flying it, and it was downhill from there.
Awesome. So just a couple of little things about drones. Since 2016, drone sales have doubled. And so really you're looking at an industry and a technology that we really see happening it's going to expand and really burst into the future. And it's not just little drone toys that you see at like Walmart or so. These drones that companies are using are really commercial devices that have a wide variety of usages. So we're going to explore a little bit of that today. And so the first thing we're going to discuss, we're going to shoot this over to Ryan. What are the current uses of drones that people might not be aware of?
So I'll just tell you, obviously, some of the verticals that we're in, because it is pretty diverse. So obviously, everything from, the government stuff that we've seen, DoD applications to public safety, industrial to include oil, gas, energy, mining, agricultural, and even media broadcast. Those are predominantly the industries that we're involved in. And obviously, one of the interesting things about drone technology is we continue as a company ourselves, we get calls and get different concepts and ideas of, people will call us and say, hey, I'd really like to use a drone in this application. And we hear those very frequently, and, things that maybe we haven't even thought about or that we've seen. And so the thing that's very neat about it is it's a very diverse market. And I would definitely echo what you said about the growth of the industry. It is one of the fastest growing tech industries in the world. And, we've really seen the consumer market grow, but I think where you're really going to see the exponential growth is in the enterprise users.
Absolutely. And then Dr. Bushey, how about you from your experiences?
Yeah, it's exciting. I echo all of you what you're saying. The technology is rapidly improving. There's advancements in energy technologies, engine technologies, data management technologies, sensor technologies, all those that go into making a drone. And we're only really limited by the application space that you can think of, whether it's the energy market, the agriculture market. I've recently been working on having drones communicate to self-driving vehicles for traffic management, for traffic safety, for highway safety, for crowd control. So it really is only limited by what you are not thinking about yet. It's very exciting.
There was, I think it was last Christmas, they were showing a drone that a normal consumer can purchase that will actually follow you while you're going down a slope and you're skiing or snowboarding. And I thought that was pretty cool because, I mean, for somebody that gets active in sports, to have a camera following you throughout the whole entire track is something I would be considered. And so that technology, I'm just looking forward to seeing where it's going to go. And
yeah,
so Ethan,
that drone technology is actually one you can put in your backpack. So it's not big.
That's awesome. And then Ethan, so how about for you, for your internship, what are you going to be doing with this company?
So for them, they do photogrammetry. So it's a lot of heavy image processing. So you would take several thousand images of some stockpile, landfill, anything like that. Then the images would come back to me and I would process those into a 3D point cloud where you can send it to the farmer and they can plot out new ways or routes for their tractor to more effectively spread pesticides. Or if you have a landfill, you want to know how big this pile of refrigerators is, you can physically take the volume from a device rather than having somebody go out there with a stick and actually measure it by hand. So it's a lot of streamlining that process and bringing it into the 21st century.
Absolutely. There was a story that was out there a couple of days ago, and back in 2012 when Prometheus came out, that movie with the aliens, they took the drone, they flew through the cave, and it was mapping out the whole entire landscape, looking for all the alien devices and eggs. And so now there's a person who wants to actually replicate this technology. And so I think what their idea is to use more of a sonar, because when you have a drone collecting all this data, you're talking about hundreds of gigabytes of data. So for you guys, what are some limitations that you might see with drones right now, and maybe some things you can change to improve the actual drone industry?
Yeah, I mean, I think you know, from our perspective, I mean, obviously the data piece is, you know, we're capturing, you know, from the photo side, very high definition imagery, you know, thermal, IR, LiDAR sensors, multispectral. I mean, all that stuff is very data intensive. So really having a data management program in place, I think, is very key, because it can become a lot very quick. And really, you know, having it, like I said, a system in place to be able to manage that, I think is key.
Yeah, and I'll throw in the different technologies that go into drones. Sensor technology is rapidly improving, which is great. The power on board the aircraft with the processors, the NVIDIA processors, and different GPU, CPU combinations you can use is amazing. But the data management, the connectivity, and the power supply are all limitations right now that we're working hard on. Obviously, with an only 25-minute life to fly, that's probably not enough. So rapid advancements in new technologies for power supply.
Okay. So we actually had a question that came in, and they want to know what kind of technology is currently in drones to make them more advanced. So you're looking at your commercial drones, not your little toys, but your big commercial drones that you guys use, for instance, with FlyMotion. So what goes into a drone?
As far as the individual components?
Yes.
Yeah,
even
I mean,
software.
So obviously, on the software side, I mean, obviously, you know, for example, a lot of the consumer products and some of the, you know, the small little quadcopters that people have seen, you know, for the most part, those are operating on a 2.4 or 5.8 gigahertz band, you know, which is essentially like a Wi-Fi. And you know, the software through the ground control station or the controller, what we would use is basically communicating. You know, the software is really just giving you the interface, the telemetry data, your video or photo image, you know, right in front of you, so you can see everything live. You know, we as a company, we don't produce software. We work with software partners that develop the technologies. But obviously the software is a very key element to an efficient operation.
Absolutely.
I'll also echo the software and hardware that's on board the drones, not the small ones, but the more commercial drones is pretty amazing. You can make autonomous drones, autonomous flying drones that make decisions. And with that, that's the software and hardware package that has to be encompassed on the drone and then transmit that data back to the ground control station. So that's also rapidly advancing.
Yeah, and I mean that you had mentioned earlier about like active track technology where it could follow you on a ski slope or something like that. I mean, if you look at that technology, I mean, there's drones out there for $1,000 that have that capability for waypoint flying and point of interest flying and active track and things like that, which is, to me, is incredible that you can have those autonomous functions for such a low price point.
Absolutely. And so thank you guys for sharing that. So another question that we have, this is actually pretty interesting. And so with everything going on right now, threats of wars and just with the current state of the world, the question that comes in is, will a future war only be fought with drones? And
future is a very long time. So you got to define future, but no, not in the short run. Wars are fought by men, and it's a supplement. It's a tool. It's one part of the data collection, the intelligence part, the warfighting part. It's all a incorporated piece. So it's, as our warfighters know, our commanders know, and our politicians hopefully know, it's all just one piece of the pie that goes into effectively waging a campaign, whether it's intelligence, surveillance, whatever you may pick.
Definitely. And I think that's also a good way to, oh, Ryan, did you want to share something?
Yeah, no, obviously I think, I would agree with Dr. Bushey that, do I see that on the near term? No, but, long term, I think, obviously war can be very hazardous, and obviously there can be lives lost. And so I think you will see more and more drone technology utilized in combat applications, especially in situations where there may be the possibility of injuring personnel and things like that. So I do see it increasing, but do I see entire wars drone on drone in the near term? I would say no.
Good to know. So recently, actually, Virginia Tech had launched a campaign where they were using drones to deliver burritos to students. And so I think that's a pretty cool way of using a drone technology to get to a market where, I mean, everybody wants a burrito. So the other one that we were talking about earlier was the idea of having an unmanned taxi, an unmanned aircraft taxi. So Dr. Bushey, what are your feelings on it? Do you think this is something that can happen anytime soon?
Right, now you're hitting one of the hearts of what I'm studying right now. I study self-driving vehicles, and one of the big marketplaces is ride-sharing or autonomous vehicles picking up people and doing taxi on the ground. And if you migrate that to the air, the possibility of transporting somebody in the air, whether it's for convenience or you're picking up somebody that's injured or going to a hazardous place to pick somebody up, it's very attractive, but there's lots of power weight trade-offs that have to be overcome in the short term to make that happen, plus regulatory and legal aspects also. So no short term, but yeah, I like the vision of the Jetsons.
And I think regarding that, I think for the listeners that are out there, a question that we get as a company a lot is, related to drone technology. Everybody, seems to think that it's, especially on the delivery side, that it's just a marketing ploy and this and that. And there is organizations, obviously, we've seen Amazon do a very good job in the marketing efforts of drone delivery. They're not the only one. There is several other very, very large corporations that are actively testing drone delivery on a daily basis. And I think it's, I think it's one of those things that you will eventually see as commonplace, and the way that they're going to do it, because we always get asked, well, what about all the aircraft in the sky? Well, for those listeners that don't know, there is what's called the NASA UTM, which is the Unmanned Traffic Management. Recently, New York State, for example, basically just got approval for a 30-mile stretch to, run autonomous vehicles, basically. So, I think there's definitely some applications.
So we had a question that just came in. How do you think this information and drones can help private investigators, and what are the legal and technical limits to small businesses that they may face when using drones? And I think, I don't know if you guys heard me on that one, but Ryan, if you have a couple of things on that, that'd be great.
How can it help? I didn't hear it after private investigators.
So how do you think this can help private investigators, and what are the legal and technical limits small businesses may face using drones?
I mean, I think obviously, one of the things that the public major concern that they have is surveillance, and we hear that regularly. The reality is that there's cameras everywhere. We all carry a cell phone for the most part now, a smartphone, and I'm pretty sure every smartphone out there now has a camera on it. There's different small cameras, pole cameras, all this stuff, and so I would like to dispel obviously the rumors that drones are all about spying on people and this or that, because there's a lot of other means that are used on a regular basis, and coming from being involved in some different law enforcement things and in that side, there's a lot of other means to basically surveil than just drone technology. So and that's been being done for years and years, and will continue. So I think from a private investigator standpoint, I think it's one of those things that, yes, it can definitely be beneficial, but you need to look at your individual state laws, what regulations are in place and what laws are in place for surveillance and things like that. So.
Yeah, I would agree. I'm going to leave the legal aspect of that question alone. That's for lawyers to decide. We can get into that later. But the technical aspects are all what we're talking about before. It's just yet another domain space we can talk about the application of drones, which is just fascinating. And as Ryan brought up, it's not just a camera. What type of sensor could you put on it? Is a audio sensor? Is it a LiDAR? Is it a sonar? What type of information can you collect? And again, I'm going to leave the private investigator away. I'm more focused on the police force. What can they use that's just a sensor technology to collect? Now, what's the limitation? It's the size, the weight limitations, how long can the drone stay airborne, what is the data communication, what is the network that it's on, and how much is it supported? So all those are limitations to the use of it as a surveillance platform.
And the FAA is also a pretty big one too. So
absolutely. So that ties into another question that we have. So what will privacy concerns be the downfall of drones, especially when you have this increased amount of no-fly zones and legal issues that can occur? But really, for you guys, what are your thoughts on this? Is privacy issues going to be the downfall?
Not
I'll jump in because I'm excited about it. Go ahead, Ryan.
No, I from my perspective, no. I don't think you're going to see that as a downfall. It's new technology, and just like when I can remember when smartphones, the internet, all that stuff has come about, and everybody, it's new. It's what you're hearing in the media. It's nice to talk about. Drones are doing this and drones are doing that. At the end of the day, it's if we rewind back to this this conversation, here in the next few years, I think we'll laugh about it and say, because unmanned technology as a whole will be commonplace in our daily lives. So no, I don't see the privacy concerns being a downfall at all.
Right, I concur. I'm jumping in here because I'm passionate about drone technology and the use of drones and the application of drones in many spaces. We hear the same thing about self-driving cars right now. Our privacy issues, our safety issues, our legal issues going to be the downfall of it. No, they are issues, they are hurdles, but they'll be overcome because the potential benefits to both drones and self-driving vehicles is just amazing. So we'll get there, and I agree. If we look back 2, 3, 4, 5 years, we'll go, wow, we didn't realize what happened so quick.
And so with that in mind, what for someone like maybe a student or someone, a first-time beginner that wants to fly a drone, what would the process be for them to legally fly a drone, say in Tampa or Lakeland, without getting in trouble?
You could, in my perspective, you can go on Amazon, buy one for $40, fly it around, beat it up, and as long as you're not doing anything like that, the surveillance or for commercial purposes, I think for the most part you're fine. Every DJI drone you can buy it and fly it, as long as you use your common sense for the most part, like not flying into an airport or some high security base like MacDill, because that wouldn't work out well for you at least.
Keep in mind, you know, I think from a student's perspective, you know, I would encourage them to read actually the FAA policies regarding hobby and recreational use. You know, you bring up Tampa, for example. There's a lot of areas within basically as a hobby recreational user, you actually have a 5-mile radius around Tampa International Airport that you cannot operate a drone, which, you know, those familiar with the Tampa area, that pushes east almost to Curtis Hickson Park. Mm-hmm. So let's say, you know, you wanted to go in a little bit closer than that, you're actually operating in restricted airspace as a hobby recreational user. Now, as a Part 107 commercial operator, you fall under a different set of rules and guidelines. But, you know, it's basically everything on the hobby recreational side is, for one, when you do purchase it, you need to register it with the FAA. It's very inexpensive. It costs $5, but you need to register it. You also need to look at, you know, where you fall, and mostly it's going to be what's considered a small UAS, which is everything from 0.55 pounds up to 54 pounds. So if you fall within that range, then you fall, that is, the FAA determines that as an aircraft, whether you're flying hobby recreational or if you're flying commercially. And so you really need to be cautious, because that to me, I see as a, you know, we see these people and on a regular basis that, you know, and traditionally they're the hobby recreational users. And I think a lot of it has to do with maybe just a lack of knowledge of the policies that are in place by the FAA. But they go and operate in areas that are, you know, just because it doesn't not allow them to fly there does not necessarily mean that it's not a restricted area to fly. And so I think there's an app out there that the FAA's got out that's really good. It's called Before You Fly. There's several others on the market, but the one that the FAA promotes is called Before You Fly. So I would encourage everybody to take a look at that, and you can really have a good understanding of what you can and can't do regarding UAS.
Yeah, I concur completely, especially coming from being a former aviator. Those FAA regulations are out there for a purpose. They're out there for safety, and the FAA's guidelines are pretty clear from the recreational standpoint. But be informed. Know before you fly. Know what you can fly, what you can't fly, and fly them smartly.
I have a drone I got for Christmas. Unfortunately, I lost it. I flew it away. But but I'm curious myself on knowing the processes and the legal requirements for drone flights. I believe that I thought there was a requirement if the drone was over $300, it had to be registered. Could be wrong on that one, but
no, it's actually weight based.
It is okay.
Yes, weight based, not dollar.
And so from you guys, what are some of the, maybe for not commercial, but just retail, what are some of the popular drones that people are getting into right now? I know there is the Phantom, I believe, but what are some recommendations for someone that wants to get out there and try using this technology?
I think one of the most popular on the consumer side that we're seeing is the DJI Mavic Pro. You know, for example, I mean, we're a DJI Enterprise distributor, and we order them and they're gone pre-sold before we even get them in. So that's a very popular platform right now, just because of the capabilities of it. You know, it can fold up. It's very compact. It's small. It has a 27-minute flight time. It's got quite a distance on the range, 4K cameras, and the price point is right about $1,000. So that from our perspective is probably one of the most popular platforms out right now.
We fly here a 3DR, which we really enjoy because it's integrated with the GoPro cameras. We can also modify the harness to pick up other cameras, but there's just such a wide variety of platforms out there that the technology changes very, very rapidly.
Yes, it is. We are seeing, so the product cycle, because we get this question a lot, is, well, how long, you know, till the next thing comes out? And we're seeing it right about every six to 9 months.
Wow.
A new version or, you know, better system is coming out on the consumer side. Obviously on the commercial side, the product cycle is a little bit longer, but on the consumer, about 6 to 9 months, and then there will be something new coming out.
Perfect. We did have a question that just came in. So Tara wants to know, from a law enforcement standpoint, drones could drastically cut the costs incurred when air surveillance is needed. How are they being compared to body cams and marketed to agencies?
I'll speak specifically in the state of Florida. So if a drone is being utilized for surveillance application, a search warrant is required. I'm speaking specific to the state of Florida. I would encourage anybody outside to investigate your own laws, consult with an attorney or whatnot. But in the state of Florida, from a law enforcement perspective, they can fly their helicopter, but currently they cannot fly a drone for surveillance purposes, unless they have a search warrant.
When you say helicopter, do you mean a physical helicopter, or?
Yes, manned helicopter. And let me just clarify. So basically, utilizing the drone for surveillance is where the search warrant would be required. Now, if a law enforcement agency was utilizing, you know, the drone, let's say for a traffic homicide investigation to maybe map out, you know, where the accident happened, or if they're using it to find a missing endangered person, or for you know, a emergency situation where obviously there's potential loss of life or imminent danger, that is something totally different. I'm referring just to surveillance.
Okay. So for both of you guys, Ryan and Dr. Bushey, both of you, thank you for your service in the military. So we had a question and what we wanted to know next. For you guys, what you can share and what you cannot share, but so how is the military using drone technology? And what are some things that they are currently using, or maybe they used in the past?
Well, I'll start first with my experience with Predators and Reapers. Obviously, long endurance, persistent surveillance at a very far distance is the #1 priority for many surveillance operations. When you can surveil a point in place for 24 hours a day for 2, 3, 4 weeks to develop patterns of life. So now not only do you understand what's going down on the ground, you understand where this person goes to shop in the morning, what their pattern of life is, who they go visit. You get a full picture of what's going on with this area before you have to take action. That's what the military traditionally has been using it. There's been other current operations with special uses of drones and special operations drones, but I'll stick with that one for my answer. Ryan, you might want to go further.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, you know, a lot, you know, for obvious reasons, what the military is doing and utilizing is, you know, confidential information. But, you know, there is obviously, like Dr. Bushey mentioned, you know, the long endurance persistent systems, of course, that, you know, we've all been familiar, that are, you know, full size, large, you know, the size of like a manned aircraft. But what we're seeing on the military side is as the technology has gotten smaller and smaller, especially for you know, some of your smaller operating teams and things like that, is larger push to utilize small unmanned systems and being able to send those into places to either map an area or surveil an area prior to making entry.
I would concur. The push to go smaller for small unit groups to see over a ridge, the push has been that way.
Awesome. Question that came in from Jacob. He wants to know, and this is for everybody here, is there a field of study that one should consider to start a career that includes working with drones?
I think I'm a little bit biased as a double E, but I think everything STEM related because you really involve the whole process, because there's the motors if you're working on the hardware aspect, or on Dr. Bushey's side where you're using OpenCV for image recognition, and that's computer scientist all the way. It's a big field, so I think really anything STEM related, especially on the engineering or the electrical, computer, and side of the thing.
Well said, and I will say that there's a big push for aviation-related studies. So you can go to an aviation career path where you look at studies, and you can do manned and unmanned aviation paths to be an operator. But I would definitely say STEM is the way to go.
Yeah, I would definitely concur with that as well. And you know, one of the other things I'll throw in there outside of STEM would be business. You know, it's a new and emerging industry, and obviously a lot of business is being done in new and innovative business ideas and ways. And so I think, you know, the business aspect is something that is important as well.
Great, thank you guys. Dr. Bushey, you had mentioned earlier something you're working on at Florida Poly, the autonomous vehicle program. So how do you see this tying back into working with drones? And what is the next step here for an autonomous drone?
Right, so the tie-in with the autonomous vehicles, I consider autonomous systems. They're platforms that carry sensors that can either make decisions on their own or transmit data back to some control unit. Then if you think about an autonomous car becoming a connected autonomous car, not only is it driving itself, but it's providing data input to cars in front of it. It's providing data input to traffic planners. It's getting information from the stoplight. It's getting information from all over the place. Well, what's to stop one of those pieces of information that it's getting or transmitting to being a drone up in the air? So you make it a heterogeneous environment where you have airborne surveillance or airborne drones providing information to cars on the ground, providing information to the stoplight, to the traffic planners, to the police, to data management. Now you have a connected smart city with a 3D component, an aerial component, providing more information to a whole smart network. And now you really get the smart city, and you get real benefits to safety, traffic management, you name it. It's pretty exciting.
I would just see the one concern being that citizen who says that their rights are being violated by having a drone consistently watching them. But I'm looking forward to seeing what they're going to do with that. So, yeah,
the right to privacy is a big concern. Understand that you probably don't know, but you're being tracked by not being tracked, but you can be tracked where you are based on your cell phone, your search history. I think it's another one of those that we go back and say, the need for public safety, the need for information, as long as we do it correct. I don't want to impinge on anybody's safety or say I'm surveilling them all the time, but this provides another layer of information that, when correctly used, is really exciting.
So when you look at drone technology right now, it's capturing a lot of data. So really, in terms of the data, you're talking about hundreds of gigabytes. And how are we going to continue, especially with Internet of Things, protect this information from cyber attacks, and really just in general, what are some security concerns when it comes to data with drones?
Well, I'll start. Ryan, you want to go ahead?
No, go ahead.
I'll throw it to Ryan. From my perspective, there's two things that you need to worry about, or two pieces there. One is the information that's coming from the drone, and that would be the video feed, the sensor feed, the information that's coming off the platform. And then the other one would be the commands that you send the drone going up, and that would be the command and control stream. So both of those are places that the communication can be interrupted. and need to be secured. And there are whole industries and whole companies that their whole focus is on securing those pieces of data that go up, whether it's short range, over the internet, all the way up to satellite communication with drones. It's a big industry.
Yeah, I would agree that that's definitely a critical piece. And as I mentioned earlier, some of the industries, it's very critical to protect not only the control and also the video stream as well. Now, one of the things is you mentioned about managing the data. We work with a lot of public safety, for example, and the thing that I encourage them to do is, yes, you're capturing a lot of data, but that doesn't mean you need to store it all and keep it all. Use what you need to use for your operation, and basically dump the rest. It's a tremendous amount of data, and obviously, at cyber, security being such a big concern and this and that. I mean, obviously, if for whether you're a private company and you need to keep that stuff, or a public agency and you have to keep it for evidence purposes or things like that, then obviously do so. But don't just store the data just to have it. Basically capture what you need and then destroy the rest.
I'm going to throw one other thing out that you talked about, the privacy and the security. One thing the military is very recently concerned about, Ryan and I were talking about it earlier, is counter drone. So how do you prevent people from flying drones where they shouldn't be flying drones if it's an adversary? So it's a big field of study there. If you wanted to get into what are drone technology, well, maybe you want to get into counter drone technology. I want to be protecting us against foreign drones.
Yeah, I would agree. That's it's definitely a big concern, and something that we've been privy to for quite some time. And I'll talk a little bit more about it because Fox News, for example, national news, just did a story on it the other day of what's going on downrange and some of the ways that our troops are being attacked by drone technology. And obviously, like anything, unfortunately there's always people that want to take and modify the intended use to harm others. We're never going to change that. It doesn't matter the technology or the device. That stuff will always exist. As long as mankind's around, really. It's people that are doing it. It's not the technology. And so counter drone is something we're involved in that space, and it is something that is definitely a deep concern, and something that our public safety agencies, specifically in this country, and security folks, I encourage them, if they're not familiar with it, to definitely get up to speed of some of the capabilities and what products are out there available for them to counter drone technology if need be.
I actually seen some stuff. I think it might have been Betchel. For security purposes, say you have a guard at a checkpoint and a drone flies overhead. It's in the shape of a rifle, but you point it at the drone and it hijacks the signal, and you physically lower it to the ground right there.
Yes, and that works great outside of the United States. Unfortunately, like a lot of things, the laws are not caught up to technology. And so you now get into FAA and FCC violations if doing that. So, detection is obviously, there's no issue detecting, but you then get into a point of taking control of an aircraft remotely, and also jamming, which are two things that are quite frowned upon in the current rules and regulations.
Great. So question for you guys, what's next for drones? Recently, Amazon, they shared some information. I know Dr. Bush, you were talking about how Amazon, you can order maybe a pair of cleats if you got your cleats at soccer practice, and 30 minutes later, your cleats would arrive from Amazon delivery service via drone. So what do you guys see? I know, Ryan, you might not be able to share because you don't want to share your secrets, but what's next for the drone technology? You have autonomous drones, but what do you guys see happening within the next couple of months?
Go ahead, Ryan.
So Honestly, really the question is, I don't know. And the reason I say that is, it's an industry that is changing so quickly, and so rapidly that it's almost sometimes hard to keep up. Especially from a private company perspective. Technology's constantly changing, sensors are changing. One of the things that I see obviously moving forward in the future is the sensors, for example, like a FLIR camera. I mean, if we look, a FLIR camera is about, yay big that you can put on a drone, and I see the resolution getting better, but the sensor size getting smaller. So I think what you're going to see is more efficient and higher definition sensors in a smaller form factor. I think that's something that will definitely be coming in the near term.
And I'm going to throw out there, and I'm going to actually throw it over to Ethan in just a second, but here at Florida Poly, we look at applied research, which means we look at what is currently available, what is coming along on the horizon, and take a look at a problem that we can apply current technology to solve. And so that's one of the unique things about Florida Poly, is that we do not just research for research's sake. We say, hey, is there a unique problem that we can think about to use drones for, and can we apply current or emerging technologies to solve? Would you agree, Ethan?
Yeah, without a doubt, because like a drone it's a platform. It's a truck with a bed that you can put whatever you would want on the back of it. Me and Dr. Bushey spoke earlier about running out of gas on the side of the highway. Rather than calling a tow truck, call a drone with a 5-gallon thing of gas, fill up your car, and hit the road. And that would save money, make more efficient like a city system, and stuff like that.
And so last question that we have here, let's see here. So for running autonomous vehicles such as cars and drones, what kind of server setup would be needed? Would they run on connections through a satellite or some kind of server within a connected city?
Right, so I'll do the autonomous car. Typically, an autonomous car has a real-time operating system that gets information. They publish and subscribe to different information sources on the autonomous vehicle, and it makes decisions based on those autonomous. And then either dedicated short-range communications, Wi-Fi or Bluetooth transmits that information to applicable servers. And they could be cloud-based, they could be ground-based, but those are data management, data collection type problems. But on board, it's really a real-time operating system with a processor.
Perfect. And so we had a question that came in. This is going to be our last one for tonight. And this can be for any of you guys here. So what kind of internships should a student look for when they're looking to get into drones? And maybe a company like FlyMotion, for instance, but what kind of careers can you expect from drones?
Yeah, I mean, I think from our perspective on internship, we're currently looking for mechanical engineers, electrical engineers, and also marketing. There's kind of the three major ones that we're looking for, and we recently have just brought on some interns, but they'll be cycling out through the semester, and are definitely looking for more. And if they want to get in contact with us, they can go to our website, www.flymotionus.com, and definitely reach out via phone or email, and we would be happy to discuss more.
Great, thank you. And then for Dr. Bushey, since you are teaching students at Florida Poly, what direction do you usually lead them in? Similar to how Ryan was mentioning, with you have the electrical engineering side, marketing, but from your perspective.
Well, if it's specifically about drones, I usually try to figure out what the students' passions are, and I make them understand that each one of these spaces, whether it's autonomous driving vehicles or drones or electrical design of digital logic circuits, these are all fields of study that you should consider. And an electrical engineering background, computer science background, mechanical engineering background opens you up to a career in a lot of different fields. It's not just, I want to be a drone operator, I want to study drones. It's, I study electrical engineering. I understand the basics. I understand the fundamentals. I know how to do applied research. And then I can go work for FlyMotion. I can go work for a medical company. I can go work for several different careers with the fundamental knowledge that Ethan's learning here at Florida Poly.
Absolutely. So that's going to wrap up our STEM Talk study on drones. I want to thank everybody, especially Ryan, Dr. Bushey, and Ethan for joining us as participants for our chat. Appreciate everyone for joining us over the last year for our STEM Talks, and stay tuned for more coming up in the fall. Thanks again and have a good night.